Welcome to your Cohesion Classroom. In this lesson, we will take a look at how to multiply by two-digit numbers. At the end of this video, you will have access to our tips and takeaways, allowing you to focus on the content being presented. You can always access any of our tips and takeaways from the lesson page before or after watching the lesson. In this lesson, we will multiply multi-digit numbers by two-digit numbers. We will heavily rely on quick and accurate recall of basic multiplication facts. In our work, we will start by estimating to get an idea of how big our answer will be. It is important for students to have a solid foundation of how to multiply by one-digit numbers before being successful with this skill. Revisit the video Multiply by One-Digit Numbers as needed. We will also refer to place value when going through the steps of multiplication. First, let's take a look at a problem that requires us to multiply by a two-digit number and estimate the product. Remember, we are estimating first to get an idea of how much our answer will be. This can be used as a checking tool once we actually solve. Our problem is 237 times 43. To get an estimate, we will need to round both numbers to make them easy to multiply mentally to get an idea of where our actual answer will fall. Let's start with the first number, 237. We will need to round this number to the closest hundred. 237 falls between 200 and 300. If you visualize 237 on a number line, you can see that it is closer to 200. So we will change this to 200. Next, we will also need to round 43, but this time we will round to the nearest 10. 43 is between 40 and 50, and if you visualize it on a number line, you will see it is closer to 40 than 50. Now that we have rounded both of our numbers, we will get our estimate by multiplying 200 by 40 for a total of 8,000. When we actually solve our problem, we can refer back to this estimate to check to see if our answer is reasonable. Estimating is a good starting point because it helps us to see what our answer should be close to. Now that we have an estimate for our problem, let's go through the steps to solve to get the actual answer. Anytime we are multiplying by numbers larger than basic facts, we will want to line up the numbers vertically if they are originally in horizontal form. It is a good idea to always put the larger number on top, even if the numbers have the same amount of digits. It is also important to always line up the place values correctly. In this case, we will put 43 under 237, lining up the 7 and the 3 in the ones place, and the 3 and the 4 in the tens place. Now, to begin this problem, we will start by multiplying the top number, 237, by the 3 in 43 because the 3 is in the ones place, and that is where we begin. As we multiply in this step, we will follow the exact rules we did when multiplying by a one-digit number. In step 1, we are basically multiplying 237 times 3, starting with the ones. First, multiply the 3 times the 7 for a product of 21. Put the 1 in the ones place and regroup the 2 in the tens place. Next, multiply 3 times 3 and add the regrouped tens for a total of 11. Put the 1 in the tens place and regroup the 100. Lastly, multiply the 3 times 2 and add the regrouped 1 for a total of 7. Now we have multiplied the ones place, we will move on to multiply by the tens place. The answers for the calculations in the tens place will occur on the line below the work for the ones place. Before we start this step, we will need to add a 0 on the second line for our answer in the ones place. This step is often forgotten by students simply because they don't know why they're doing it, so tell them if needed. We place this 0 in the ones place because we're not working with ones here. This 4 in the tens place, so therefore we need to record our answers starting in the tens place. We took care of the calculations for the ones place in the line above. We're moving on to tens, so we start in the tens place. Adding that 0 in our answer will account for the 4 being a 40, so we can just simply multiply the 4 throughout without worrying about it. Another step that can be helpful to take before moving on to calculating the tens is to cross out the regrouped numbers from our multiplication with the ones digit. We do this because when we move into multiplying the tens place, we will need to regroup numbers and we do not want to get them confused. A simple line through the previously regrouped numbers works great. Now, we will multiply 237 by 4, starting with the ones place, 7 times 4, putting the 8 in the tens place of our answer and regrouping the two tens. Remember, when working with the ones place, we first multiplied the ones place of the upper number. This doesn't change just because we're now working with tens. We still go to the ones first and work our way across. Moving on, we will multiply the 4 times the 3 and add the regrouped tens for a total of 14. We will put the 4 in the answer and regroup the 1 in the hundreds. Lastly, we will multiply 4 by 2 and add on the 1 regrouped hundred for a total of 9. Once we have finished multiplying by both the ones and the tens, we can take the two products and add them up for a final answer. If students ever ask why we add here, let them know the original task was to multiply 237 by 43. In our two lines of calculations, we multiply 237 by 3 and then by 40. We add these totals together because it's the equivalent of multiplying by 43. Our final answer is 10,191. Before we can say we are finished, it is important for us to go back and compare our answer to our estimate. If you remember, our estimate was 8,000 and our answer is 10,191. This is considered a reasonable estimate. It may seem like 8,000 and 10,191 are far from one another, but the larger the numbers you are working with, a larger the span from the estimate to the actual answer is to be expected. Because we are working in the thousands, this proves our answer is reasonable. This problem is an example of how to multiply by a two-digit number by splitting it into steps, starting with multiplying by the ones and then multiplying by the tens. Once both steps have been multiplied to get two products, they get added together for a final answer. Now that we have used the standard method to multiply by two-digit numbers, let's link it to another model students may be familiar with. In our model, we will show the first number in our multiplication problem, 237, broken up by place value on the vertical side of the model. The number is split into 200, 30, and 7. On the horizontal side of the model, you will notice we have broken up the second number, 43, into 40 and 3. We will make boxes in the model to indicate the product of each of these numbers multiplied together. We will start with the larger set of numbers and multiply the 200 by the 40. You can see our product of 8,000 is put into the top left square. Moving down, we will multiply the 30 times the 40. The product of 1,200 is put into the middle square on the left. Last, on the left side of our model, we will multiply the 7 times 40 for a product of 280 that is put into the model in the last spot on the left. Moving on to the right side, we will multiply all the vertical numbers on the left side each by 3. We will put the products of 600, 90, and 21 in the boxes on the right. Once our figure is completed, we will add up all of the products in the model to get a final answer of 10,191. This is the same answer we came to when using the standard way of multiplying. This is a model students are familiar with and may prefer to use because it breaks the numbers up into easier numbers to work with. A common error that can occur when students are multiplying by two-digit numbers is that it is easy to forget to place the 0 in the second row when multiplying by the tens. If the 0 is forgotten, it will skew the entire answer. To address this common error, always have students put that 0 before beginning the second set of multiplication. If it continues to be forgotten, make a quick checklist as a reminder. This would simply address the routine. You would also want to spend time addressing why the 0 is placed in the ones place. Another common error that can occur when multiplying by two-digit numbers is miscalculating due to the numbers not being lined up correctly. By the end of the problem, students have several lines of numbers, and it is important they stay organized and separated so they do not get jumbled. To address this error and help students keep their numbers organized, you can draw lines between each place value to keep them separated. Another possible solution would be to use graph paper that is already lined. However, keep in mind graph paper may not always be readily available. For more practice with this skill, revisit the lessons, describe the relationship in place value, and multiply by one-digit numbers. Because basic fact recall is so important with this skill, have students continue to practice their facts for accuracy and speed. This can be done through drills or just calling out problems at home or in the car. Remember to estimate first and go back to the estimate to check to see if the answer is reasonable. To gain a full understanding of this concept, visit the lesson page to view the rest of the place value, multiplication, and expression set of lessons. Uniting students and families in learning, we are Cohesion Education. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.